it's going to be his final show, according to history. And Ben it's by now it's an old friend across the planet. It gives me a lot of new perspective of the world, like everywhere, nowhere, everything, nothing. Um, I'm waiting for his book that's going to come out. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a bestseller. And also, he gave me new perspective about looking at certain things about, um, some of the jobs are going to be lost forever, according to 2008 financial crisis. And he talked about what happened in the community. There's a lot of things that we can learn from him, and I would like to shout out to him and his podcast, The History Voyager. I think it's ranked 110 worldwide, and we're talking about worldwide as in we've got about more than 6 million podcasters. That is growing every day. So, Ben Kitchens, do not miss this show, and do not miss the following show next Sunday at 9 p.m. prime time. As usual, he's going to cut to the chase. He's going to tell us what's happening in America, something that keeps him up at night. And I have a lot of education from him. America's a big place. We only get news from Bloomberg. We only hear news about um, Bill Gates when he makes a shout out. We hear something from Elon Musk when he makes a tweet. And we hear about Warren Buffett when he makes his move on the stock market. And we know about Ronald McDonald, and that's all we know. And I follow Kim Kardashian on Instagram. It's good to hear from someone in the middle of America, Ben. So you're going to cut to the chase and tell us what's happening, where you are, what keeps you up at night, and what's happening in your world. Hi, Ben. How are you? Welcome to
Oh,
Singapore.
I'm fine. Thank you for having me again. Um, I wanted to talk, if I could, about what's going on in Texas. There's an ice storm, and I became aware of it because I'm on Twitter for my podcast, and one of the YouTube. He's a YouTube personality or whatever, but he and his wife were in Texas, and they were
Mm.
what's called live tweeting about what their thing was in Texas and their travels through Texas, and it was just crazy.
Wow.
It was literally you had trucks overturning, and
Wow.
you did, and you had so there was a street that went on for miles, and like every second floor of that street, every house second floor, the pipes had burst from the ice. So the house had caved in for miles. This was for miles, miles and
Wow.
miles. And okay, so I was talking to my best friend actually. I was talking to my best friend about all this, and he said, "Well, I've got a cousin who lives in Austin, Texas, the capital of
Mm.
Texas."
Yeah.
And so I talked to him yesterday. I talked to him yesterday afternoon, and he told me some amazing stuff just from his perspective. The first thing you need to know, and the first thing I wanted to tell all the viewers, all the listeners, all this, is that we had talked for about 30 minutes before I just casually mentioned that, that this is international news. Okay. And he thought, first of all, he didn't know that the entire state of Texas was without power.
Wow.
Second, he didn't know, like, he thought it was just his town. He thought it was just his town. He didn't know it was the whole state.
This is serious.
And he had been without water for a week or two. I forget. He told me how many days, but it's like a week or two.
Wow.
And I just was so Texas. So the rest of the country, the other 49 states.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all connected to this power grid.
Yeah.
So if Georgia has power demands, we can get power from Tennessee and Alabama and Florida and all places. Texas is energy independent.
Mm.
So, and they run their power situation not from a power first, but from a cost first. So when the power spike was a price and spike was a price in I'm sorry, when the power spike hit, there was a price spike in the energy, and so Texas just shut the power off. Well, in doing that, there's a couple of there was some major hospitals in Texas that lost power.
Wow.
There was what else? People died of hypothermia.
Wow.
Now, okay. Now the thing you have to understand is, so I've studied this. The underlying issue here. The underlying issue is global warming or climate change. Now you're going to ask me. You're going to say, Ben, well, how is an ice storm in Texas because the planet is warming? Well, I'll tell you. So there's a jet stream. The jet stream goes across the country and it goes up, I think, eventually to England and beyond there. I don't know. But the jet stream is weakening because of climate change.
Mm.
And what the jet stream does is it keeps the Arctic air above a certain, like, it keeps the Arctic air out of the south, basically. Okay. So with the jet stream weakening, all this Arctic air comes down from Canada into Texas. And they're not set up for winter weather, right? Okay. Like when I first met you, you had told me you lived in Paris, right? You lived in France and England. So I guess you're familiar with winter weather.
Yeah.
You're familiar with the winter.
Yeah.
In Texas,
yeah.
Normally, according to him, the low would be 45 Fahrenheit. Okay, 45 Fahrenheit isn't freezing. That's not freezing. So, they don't really have insulation in their houses for this.
Oh, so that's the normal average temperature.
No, just for the winter. That's like
the
low.
Okay.
Yeah, for the low. I went to Texas once. I've got family out there. I went to Texas once. In the summer, in about May or June.
Yeah.
It's really hot. I mean, I live in Georgia, and Georgia's hot in the summer. Texas is really, really hot.
Really hot.
So they're not accustomed to this. They're not used to this. The other thing that's been going on with Texas is, so in this country, I don't know how in Singapore, how you treat climate change.
Mm-hmm.
How do you treat climate change in Singapore as a country, as a place?
You mean how we mitigate the effects of climate change?
Like, does your government of Singapore, do they acknowledge the climate change?
Oh, yes, we do.
Okay.
We do. Yeah. So it is official, and we're fighting rising sea levels. That's number one. Is flooding whenever it rains.
In the United States, that's a political disagreement. That's a serious political disagreement even now.
Yes, we know.
The climate change is even a thing. that it
Yeah.
even exists. And
We're really feeling the effects already in Singapore in the last about 5 to 8 years. Has never flooded, but when it rains now, it floods because the water on the island cannot displace itself into the ocean because the level the sea level is rising. You can't displace it. I'm trying to say the level. So therefore, when it rains, it floods.
Well, I mean, I have a fall birthday. I have a fall birthday. And so I have a lot of pictures of me over the years from a certain day. Okay. What's interesting is when I was a kid, like a little boy, I was wearing a coat. And 2 years ago, it was 88 degrees.
Was really hot.
And I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
On your birthday.
And like when I was my 4-year-old birthday, I was wearing a coat.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yes. The temperatures have evolved.
It's so strange because okay. So it's February. Okay, it's February 21st today. Last week just started. It was a couple of weeks ago. It just started to get cold, and I still haven't. I don't know that I've worn a coat. All winter. I don't know that I've worn a coat.
Yeah, the changes in the temperature, the climate, the changes in the climate. Yeah.
It's different. Yeah. So Texas doesn't acknowledge this. They don't acknowledge.
They don't.
Climate change is officially. They don't really acknowledge that it's a thing. So they didn't winterize anything.
Wow.
They're actually the governor. Okay, wait. The governor of Texas is going on the television now, and he's saying that it's not the fossil fuels, it was the wind turbines. Well, wind turbines are only 20% of their power. And fossil fuels are 80%. So it's all a political game to these people. They'd rather play the political games than actually fix anything.
Yes.
And the way Texas is, though, it's very conservative.
Yes. I
think it's going to work. I actually think it's going to. I think he's going to get reelected, or they're going to get. I just know it. But this, to me, the reason I wanted to talk about it was because I had to, I live, I don't know, thousands of miles from Texas. I don't know how far I live from Texas. I live like 18 hours away by car from the Texas state line. So, but my local paper doesn't cover Texas, right? Had I not been on Twitter on a certain moment, I would not know about this as much. I would not have, I probably would have heard about it, but it wouldn't have been anything that would have registered. It wouldn't have been anything that would have like, oh, wow, what's going on? Look at that. Look at those people. What's happening, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it just underscores the failure of the media. It just underscores like the failure in this country of the media, of the fact that our politics for a lot of people are a game. A lot of people.
Yeah. And the people suffer. Yeah.
And here's what's going to blow everybody's mind all over the world. A lot of these same people huddling in their houses that have been without water for all this long, they're going to vote. They're going to vote these same people back in.
Crazy.
they're going to vote these. I know it. I know they're going to vote these same people back.
Yeah,
A lot
it's
of them.
crazy,
Not
right?
all. Not all. Of them. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Let me tell you this before we move on to another topic.
Okay.
So your power bill in Texas, like it could be $70.
Yeah.
Before this, it could be like $70, $80, whatever.
Yeah.
Some power bills are going to go up to $10,000.
Yeah.
A month. $10,000.
Wow.
Let me tell you what
$10,000 for how?
for a power bill. For a power bill.
I know the building or one family.
For a month for a house.
For one family in a house.
$10,000. Because we're an international crowd here. So $10,000 is about.
It's about 8,000 Singapore dollars.
$10,000 would be.
Oh no, 10,000. It's about 13,000 Singapore dollars. Here in Singapore.
If you had a pretty decent job, like $10,000 would be about a quarter of your wage for the year.
Yeah, you can buy a car in America, right?
So no, a little more. I mean, you could buy a car for $10,000.
You can buy a Honda.
You could buy a car for sure, but not like a. I don't know. You probably have credit in Singapore and Paris and London. A lot of things in this country happen on credit. A lot of things in this country happen on credit. But $10,000, $10,000.
Yeah.
That's unbearable. I mean, that's literally
Of course. Insane.
I tell you the story. No, it's not. It's really not. And I tell you the story that they haven't covered yet.
Okay, tell us.
Because it hasn't happened.
Okay.
But it will.
Yeah.
When you get a $10,000 a month power bill.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, unless you have, most Americans don't have $10,000 in credit. They don't have access to $10,000 in credit.
Yeah.
All right. How are you going to pay that? You're not. So your power's going to get shut off. There's going to be a lien on your house. You're probably going to have to move. If you get bad credit in this country, there's a whole cascading effect that happens to you, where you're basically not employable. A lot of people, it's just, if you get bad credit in this country, for a lot of people, it's over. You're, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how those people are going to make it later.
Yeah.
To me, and we're not going to do it. I can tell you right now, we're not going to do it. But to me, you're going to have to change laws because Texas is, I think, the third biggest population-wise, or the second biggest state, or the third. I don't. It's right up there population-wise. Second or third, or no, it's not second. It's probably third or fourth. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of changes coming up because of this power situation. For sure.
And I think you brought a very important point because the power was shut because there was a spike and the hospitals, the needies, they need the power. So what happened? Do you have the reports of the casualties on this?
Well, here's the thing. The number is okay. So your listeners in Singapore
Yeah.
probably have never seen snow or ice, maybe a lot of them. When you have snow and ice,
Mm.
you have to salt and sand the roads to make them drivable. Okay. They don't have salt and sand in Texas. They don't have spreaders. They don't have any way to deal with this.
Mm.
So you asked me about fatalities.
Yep.
Okay. Well, so to be counted as the dead, somebody has to go out and find you.
To count the
Right?
bodies.
I mean, there is a death total.
Yeah.
Let me Google it for you.
Mm.
There is a death total, but I don't know what it is. I mean, but it's going to rise. It's totally going to rise because they're going to find new people.
Mm.
Let me just go. I'm just Googling right now. Texas death. There you go.
And I also
Okay.
want.
All right. Here's the number, and this is how
Yeah.
ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
47 people.
Died.
There's
Of the
more than
snow.
four. Wait. There's more than
The temperature.
47. There's more than 47 people. Let me
Yeah.
tell you right now.
Yeah.
It's more than 47 people. Yes, it is. If you've got a whole state with no
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
more than 47 people. Okay.
Died from the
47
freeze. Died without
47
electricity. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
47 people is the number of people they could come up with 2 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
and the toll will rise. The toll will rise. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about this country that might not be obvious that, okay, so we all have cell phones, right? Well, not all of it, but cell phones predominate. The government has no, if my cell provider went out of business today, the government would not step in and make sure that my phone worked.
Mm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
You mean the telecom company, they don't really care, and the governor doesn't have any power over them, and he doesn't really care?
They have. Okay, what I mean is back in the good old days, back when I was a child, back when my parents were kids. There was a phone attached to a wall.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of current that ran to it.
Yeah.
And you paid something to a private corporation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, when push came to shove, as we say in America, the government was going to make sure that phone signal worked.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Cell phones, the government doesn't do that.
Yeah. Understood.
That's not what I mean by the government doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's not that the government doesn't care. It's that they don't have to make sure that it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the connections, there's, for a while there, this week. So a lot of internet traffic goes through Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. Routers and switches, blah, blah, blah. For a lot of this week, there were like you could go on a website and your search would just die.
Oh.
Or your website.
The internet connection.
Yeah, like so like your website is in Texas, the server's in Texas, or it goes through Texas or whatever. Well, if it goes through Texas, it just died. It,
Yeah.
it just went away. And I had to do, let's see, I had to do several podcasts by phone because
Your cell phone
the
wasn't
internet,
working
well,
because the signal wasn't working.
the internet signal, I couldn't do. I actually worried, would we be able to do this?
Wow.
Like last week,
Yeah.
um, early part of last week, I don't know that this would have been possible.
Wow. And America is so huge. I mean, you're talking about cross the
Well, and it's
whole.
because, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's because like all that internet stuff, there's a lot of internet
Yeah.
servers and things in
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
And I
They're
mean,
all
yeah,
they're all in a way damaged from the temperature.
yeah, and the power, more the
Can
power.
yeah. Ben, could you tell us the story that your friend told you that he was without water for almost a week? I mean, how did he survive? You're talking about a first world country.
How did he knew? Okay, so Texas gets a lot of hurricanes.
Okay.
Texas gets hurricanes and tornadoes and a lot of stuff like that. So what he did was as soon as he saw that this was going to be a thing,
Yeah.
he started collecting water.
Collecting
He,
water.
he started collecting water in jars, like
Oh.
glass jars
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
What I thought was amazing was he was there. The grocery stores, the supermarkets, we call
Yeah.
them in America. They were totally without food.
Without food.
There was no food where he was. And yeah. Um, and they finally, like his neighbors, they started cooking food outside. They had to cook outside because they had no power. But is the thing that I realized doing this podcast, like doing this whole podcast, is that our government doesn't care. Right? It just doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean,
So yeah, and the governor is Ted Cruz, am I right?
no, he's just okay.
He's a senator.
He's a senator, and so what the Senate is so you have the House of Representatives in Washington,
Mm.
and you have the Senate in Washington, and each state gets two senators, right? And the Senate is really powerful. If you're a senator in this country, you're like really powerful. And I mean, there's a part of me that says, you know, he could have done something. He could have raised money. He could have, he could have. There's a representative from New York who raised $2 million in 3 hours or something like that for Texas. And she flew it down there herself. Like she flew it down there on a plane herself. And there he is after he got caught handing out bottles of water. There's photos of him handing out bottles of water in Texas. And you're just like, honestly, I'd rather have you on the phone. Honestly, man, I'd rather you be on the phone and you know. It's so annoying.
So do you foresee that the electricity, or your friend foresee that electricity will be connected again, will be up again? Are they still having
His
power down?
his water's
Power
up
and
and
water, yeah, power and water, both are
his
down.
water's up and going.
Yeah.
His water's up and going. He had power when when he talked to me, he had power
Mm.
because we talked.
Mm.
right? So yeah, I mean, but power's spotty. He said power is real spotty.
Mm.
Off and on. That's what that means in America.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, but um, the thing is, like, you can't. I mean, you would have to rearrange the grid. You'd have to give them power. You'd have to rearrange the grid, which I mean we could do.
Mm.
It's doable. I mean, it's nothing. You know, this country put a man on the moon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, we put a man on the moon. You can put power lines into Texas or
Yeah.
whatever,
And
but you
yesterday they
have to.
just put the aircraft, the space shuttle in Mars, right?
Yeah, we can send a space shuttle to Mars. We can send a air
And the
spacecraft to
people are
Mars.
suffering without water.
Uh, but you know, I did another podcast. I talked to this woman in New York who was from Armenia, the country of Armenia, and she said something that he said. They said they don't know each other. They've never talked or whatever. But they said, both of them said, well, I know when the government fails, you just get water. You know, they both said that. And
Yeah.
it's something they said. When the government fails, you just get water. I mean, you know. I don't know.
But how's the weather at your place? It's still very cold today with ice sheets and all.
Well, there's no ice. It's cold. It's not,
Just
well,
cold.
no, it's not cold. It's yesterday it was 50.
Mm.
Got up to 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm.
I don't know what that is Celsius, but
Yeah.
you know, it's windy. It's very windy. Um, you know, Atlanta's famous for the wind. We're famous for our wind
For the wind. Yeah.
because we have like we're higher elevation.
Mm.
So there's part of my state that has the same climate as Maine,
Yeah.
which is very far north, very far north. But I don't have the same climate as Maine, but we get a lot of wind, and you have to dress for that in the winter. You have to dress for the wind,
Mm.
but yeah, you know, we're fine, but I can't even believe I googled it and there's like, what did I tell you, 47 deaths, and you just know that. I mean, you've got a whole hospital in Houston
Yeah.
that shut off. There's more than
Wow.
47 people died.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
You know?
Yeah. And the old folks, I mean, people who are poor, you know, they don't
Oh,
have the electricity or insulation, and old people and weak people. I'm sure these people are under the radar. You know, you're talking about really
oh,
harsh, talking about really harsh weather.
oh,
Yeah.
and the crazy thing about, I mean, the thing I didn't tell you was not how cold it was,
Yeah.
but how cold it wasn't.
Yeah. Before.
So
Yeah.
we get, so I live in Georgia, and Georgia's in the South. It's in
Yeah.
the U.S. South. It's hot here in the summer, but I live up in the hills. Like, I live in the mountains, so we get, you know, it gets cold in the winter. Not cold, not like cold, not like Paris
Yeah.
or London, but it gets cold.
Yeah.
Though 20 degrees was how cold it was
Yeah.
in Texas. 20 degrees is nothing here. 20 degrees is, I mean, it's cold, but it's, you know, you got buildings, you've got heat, you know, it's not bad,
Mhm.
you know, it's not horrible. That's the part to me I can't get over is like, What would they do? Because we get like 2. I've had 2 degrees before.
Wow.
Like well, not
That's
every winter.
really below freezing point. That's
Not
like
ev-
really,
yeah, like not every winter, but like I guess 10 years ago.
yeah.
I guess like 10 years ago, we had Atlanta had a really bad cold snap for about a month. Like a really really bad cold snap for about a month.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'd have days where the high would be 8.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
And
gets really bad when there's wind because it's cold, but when the cold wind comes, it kind of like double, triple the kind of like free, it kind of like penetrate
oh,
through all your coat. It doesn't even matter how much
oh,
you're wearing it when the cold wind comes.
yeah, yeah. And especially like with all the tall buildings in Atlanta,
Yeah.
like you would have like this wind coming through the buildings, it'd be really cold.
Yeah.
Really, really.
Especially through the narrow ways. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The skyscrapers.
Yeah.
But that's the part to me, Vicky, that's the part to me where I'm just like, that's the scary part to me,
Yeah.
is how cold it was not.
Before.
Like,
Yeah.
like
How
how
the
cold,
how
no,
the climate has
this,
really changed.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we have politicians that don't
Don't even
admit
believe in
that.
science.
They do, yes, exactly. I mean, doing my podcast like I do, doing my podcast like I do,
Yeah.
I've learned that Americans all over the world today have a reputation for being stupid. I didn't know that. Honestly,
Reputation for being stupid.
I didn't know Americans had a reputation for being stupid until I started doing my podcast and talking to folks all over the world, all over the world. And I can see why.
Yeah.
You know?
So with the new administration, your new president, is he going to change anything? I thought that the first thing he did on the first day was to rejoin the Paris
He's
climate
gonna,
accord.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's rejoined the Paris Climate Accords. And I guess we'll stay in that for 4 years or
Mm,
whatever. But,
yeah.
so the way it works in this country politically is you get a Democrat for 4 years or for 8 years.
Yeah.
And then you get a Republican for 8 years. And then you get, and then that person. So like with Trump, okay? Like with
Yeah.
Trump, most presidents get 2 terms. Like most presidents get 2 terms. And Trump almost got a second term.
Yeah.
Like if certain states had voted one way or the other,
Yeah.
he would have, even though he would have lost the popular vote by like 7 million, he still would have gotten elected.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, what a way to start my morning on a downer.
No, but tell us, you are talking about the situation. Um, do you force? Let's talk about the new administration, the new policies that's come in. Do you see that things will look up better for America? Do you see that the mood will be lifted? Because even through the way that I've spoken to you, even last year and this year, the country is really divided. It's kind of like fractured, right? It's breaking up into many pieces. But do you think that the healing will take place soon? Do you think there's going to be any healing, any coming together?
Do I think there's going to be any healing? Maybe. But it's not going to be in a year. It's not going to be in 2 years. I think really what this is if I could just think about it, I think really what's going on is there's a group of people in this country that just don't want to be in the modern world. They just don't want to be in the modern world, and they don't want, and you can't make them. Like, and like, okay, like with the Texas thing, right? I mean, the thing to do would be to give Texas power and okay, ha ha ha, yeah, okay, you didn't modernize your powers thing because you don't believe in climate change, but hey, climate change is real. Okay, we learned that now. Okay, let's modernize. No, we don't want to modernize.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep doing this. They're gonna keep doing this.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, in many, even in France that I was that there is a big segment of people, they do not want to modernize. They do not want to follow the trends of the world, and they resist moving with the rest of the world. And of course, the word "the rest of the world" sounds really vague, but you're right to say the word, like they resist moving forward. They resist modernization. They want to go back to the old historical days. Yeah, there are a large part of people who are like this. Yeah. Do you? I
Yeah.
mean, you are an American, Ben. I mean, I'm intrigued about when you live in such a situation yourself. There's a lot of news that even if I read the media, I mean, not talking about politics, but just talking about the media. One situation, it has such a diverse interpretation and such a diverse take on it, and some could be take on it even in one situation. It could be extremely bad and extremely good. Like I'm just giving an example, right? I'm just throwing an example. Like for example, Meghan Markle, the princess, right? The Duke of the Sussex, who's now living in California. Like you have one same piece of news that comes out. I'm just saying, like, it comes out into my phone, right?
Mhm.
But good or bad, you have this very diverse, extreme views on a particular news, right? And even in America, let's not talk about the world. Even in America, like, oh, because it's such a divergent opinion, and some of these comes across like very uh, in a way, I don't call it extremist view, but they could be extremely opinionated. So living in a place like this, where for example you are, where you have a certain news or certain event, but there is such big diverse difference in opinion. I mean, you are living a lot of tension, and I guess you are being pulled on both sides. Am I right? And do people like you, because you're so aware of the news, unlike people who just bury themselves at work, bury themselves in their job, but because you being, and a lot of Americans are very aware of current affairs, doesn't it bring it to the level whereby you feel it's so unbearable, that kind of climate that
I
we're living in?
I don't.
You know
I
what I'm trying to
try.
get?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I have my group of friends, um, and I don't. I don't want to say I don't keep up with the news because I do.
Mm.
I do a lot.
Yes.
But what I don't do is I don't watch the news. Like
Mm.
I don't watch it. I don't listen to it. I read it
You
because I
don't
can
get
start.
consumed by it.
Well, like I purposely decided, like I
Mm.
don't want to listen to the news. I want to read the news because because if it gets weird, I want to just stop.
Yep.
You know, if it gets like what I just told you, where there's going to be all these people in Texas that their lives are going to change, their
Mm.
whole life, the trajectory of their life and their family's
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
is going to change because of a $10,000 power bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the climate change. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, you don't want to think about that
Yeah.
too much. Um, I've got extended family that uh, don't agree with me politically. So if I talk to them, we don't talk about politics.
Mm.
Um, I actually think that's one of the reasons Facebook is going to go out of business eventually, because people just don't, Americans, Americans don't get on Facebook like they used to.
Mm. Yeah.
Like even like a year ago or 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Facebook is going to be around in 10 years or whatever,
Mm.
because a lot of people, a lot of people I know
Mm.
are on either side of the situation, are
Mm.
tired of
Yes, either side.
the argument. They're just
Yeah.
tired of it.
Yes.
I mean,
It's
I don't
like
know.
I think the word is like you become so um, disenfranchised, you become disappointed in the system. You want to become disengaged. You want to pull yourself out because it brings you this amount of emotion if you look at the news. And this is, I mean, for me, for different reasons, but I have stopped looking at the news already. Me knowing that news is actually controlled by groups of people behind it
Right.
who wants a certain selection of news to be going out. I'm not talking about propaganda, but the media is always used as a propaganda tool. I mean, that's the first
Like,
tool. Yeah,
okay, for example, and
yeah,
I'll give you, going back to the Texas thing,
yeah,
I can find stories on Texas now,
yeah.
but the way I discovered it was these people traveling.
It's not from the news.
It was the way I even learned
Yeah,
about the whole thing at all was just from um,
from the podcast.
this YouTube creator. His wife and him were like tweeting about their trip in Texas and how
Mm.
crazy it was.
Wow.
I didn't find out about this from the news. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you actually highlighted you highlighted the what should I say, the crux of the matter. Because news reporting, um, I would say that it has become like a selection shopping. You shop for the kind of news that people want to report. It's a shopping. Thanks for the thumbs up.
That's exactly, like, you want to find your opinion. You want your opinion yelled back at you.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, I don't know. And the thing I kind of think is, like, you look at a story like climate change. Okay? Look at a story like climate change. At some point, reality just sort of catches up. You know, you know what I mean? Like, at some
Yeah.
point, reality just sort of, like,
Just like in Singapore, reality catches on because of
well, like,
rising levels.
you can tell people all you want that
Yeah.
it was the windmills or it was the solar
Yeah.
panels
Yeah.
or whatever. But when this becomes the new normal,
Yeah.
when this happens every winter,
Yeah.
every other winter.
That becomes the reality. Yeah. Climate change becomes real.
Right. And that's the other thing is that I think, I don't know if I told you this, but COVID-19 taught me how they're going to look at climate change.
Tell us.
When something bad happens in Miami or Tampa or Houston, oh, that didn't happen. Or, oh, okay, it did, but it's not as bad as it was, as you think. Okay. Or, no, don't pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to the news.
Exactly.
I could totally see how this could go down. I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying it's more than possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I have it's amazing to me that even now, even with vaccines and all this, and I said this last week to you, you still have people who don't believe it's real.
It is a hoax.
You still have people. And the thing that gets me is like, so the thing that gets me is I have cousins that have jobs, have really good jobs, have educated. They think that Joe Biden controls a weather satellite, and that Joe Biden put this weather satellite over Texas.
What?
And put this, and it's all on Facebook.
What?
And
send that to me.
Oh, okay. I'll find it. I'll have to. It's going to be later today because I have things to do.
Yeah.
This is my morning, Singapore. This is my morning.
Yeah, I know. Ladies and gentlemen, that's his morning. Yeah.
But it'll be later today. But I'll have to hunt around for it. But I'll find it.
Ben, we are coming to the final 3 to 4 minutes of your show. It's always such an illuminating conversation that I have with you. Something totally I wasn't expected, but a lot of education from you. Would you like to share something to wrap up for the next 3 minutes, and then we come back to you for the next episode, and I'm going to do another commercial break before you leave. Tell us anything for the next 3 minutes.
All right. So I've got a podcast. It's called The History Voyager. I'm going to throw up a bunch of episodes on there today.
Wow.
Starting with the episode I recorded yesterday.
Yeah.
The one in Texas. Just, if you can go online and find out about Texas, or go online and find out how to donate if you can.
Wow.
Things like that. These people need your help. They need our help. The Texas government, they're going to stand around and give water bottles out, but they're not going to.
That's actually what I call just a photo op, right? Thank you for the thumbs up.
Yep. Yeah, they're not. I mean, it's going to be sad. It really is.
I'm just thinking, how do people bear their world in such a situation? You're talking about people like a friend who does not have running water for 6 days. I mean, a human being can't have running water in 1 day, and we're talking about the first world superpower of the world, and the people not having water for 6 days. Like, this is just unthinkable.
It was. He told me it was like a week or two. He told me how long it was. I'm just forgetting.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can listen to it on the podcast. Okay. It'll be there.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to do another commercial now for Ben. He is the historian with a double master's degree in history and has been doing politics and has been looking at graphs, demographics, uh, all about American statistics. Go to his podcast, The History Voyager. You can find him on Google. You can find him on Anchor. Is that Anchor you're using? You can find him on Spotify. You can find him on Apple. And you can find him on Talk About Life here with us. So Ben, he's ranked about 110 in the world for his podcast, and I have such a good sessions with you, Ben, since last year. I would love to continue having this conversation with you, but ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you to come to his show for the final episode of According to History, for this February special that is broadcast live to you from Singapore to the world, about the prolonged pandemic. Thank you so much, Ben. I really enjoyed that, but I really want you to stay safe, and also stay warm, stay healthy, go under the shelter of your home, and
Yeah.
just chill out. I mean, excuse the word, but chill out.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a pun. That's a
I had
double pun there.
I had a lovely time on your show, believe it or not. Even though we talked about some pretty crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
you guys have a good day. And
Thank you.
my show is called The History Voyager. I'm real proud of it.
Yes.
Anyway, take care, Vicky, and
I'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah, and that's
Bye-bye.
the final episode from Ben Kitchens next week. Tune in at 9 p.m. Singapore prime time. That's where the national news of Singapore comes on. And that's his time at 8 a.m. American Standard Eastern Time. Right, and 7 a.m. American Central Standard Time and 5 a.m. Pacific Time. So tune in, anyone and everyone from where you are. We've got a whole panel of hosts for you from Ben, where he is in Georgia, Atlanta. And then we're going to come up, for all of you next week. All the hosts is going to join us for one final time next week. And then we're going to close the prolonged pandemic special. Thank you, Ben. Now you stay safe.
Thank you.
Friends in pandemic, bye.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
See you. See you next week.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to have this shout out to everyone and thank you for tuning to the show, the prolonged pandemic, and we're pulling into the final week next week. And you have been kind to be with us, and so have been these co-hosts from all over the world, from Central America, Mexico City, America, then you've got India, Pakistan, Malaysia, and myself in Singapore. And also we've got new co-hosts for you, which is Mr. Ang Ming Sung, director and producer of Media Shop Productions. He's going to be here next Thursday at 10 p.m. Singapore time. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to receive your queries, your news, and your emails. Write to us to talk about live 777 at gmail.com. Thank you so much for dialing in. We're going to have a little commercial break before the next guest comes on. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to have a shout out to everyone. Thank you for dialing into the show, The Prolonged Pandemic. And we are pulling into the last final week of the show that is dedicated to the people. We've got Miss Jessica Russell today. We've got today Miss Jessica Russell, and she's dialing in from California, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills. And last week we actually have Miss Jessica Russell. She's got such a wonderful session last week. Thank you for dialing in, Jessica. So Jessica, are you here with us from California? You are on live. So without further ado, I'd like to without further ado, okay, Jessica, we are on live. Are you all right there? Are you all right there? Jessica, are you all right there? Hello? Jessica, are you all right there? Now we're experiencing some technical situation with Jessica. And just while she is working on her technical situation, I would like to go through what will happen next week. And on Tuesday, we're going to have Miguel Flores from Mexico City. He's going to tell us what's happening in that part of the world. And on Wednesday, we will have...
I'm not sure if you can hear me. I can't hear you. You
Wonderful.
can hear me?
It's good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Well, you know me. I can actually continue to talk and carry on the whole hour, but I
can hear you. You're good.
No tone. So let me try to figure this out.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? 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 All right, I think I am on, and I'm loud and clear on my side. All right, I think
can you hear me?
I am on. Yes. Yes, I can.
Excellent. I think you're good.
Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
I am. I can hear you good. The problem is?
No, I think I lost your voice. You got to unmute that. So ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is a live show, so we can come in as genuine as we can. So as Miss Jessica, she is trying to figure out what's happening at that end. Bear with us a little bit. Are you all right, Jessica? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is it all good? You can't hear me. You know what? I'm going to send you another link now. I'm going to dial up to you again. All right. I'm going to go off and then I'm going to give you another link.